You know that whole idea we've been fed since we were kids? The one that says you need a genius-level breakthrough, a rock star team, and a mountain of cash before you can even dream of making it? Yeah, that's a lie. A clean, shiny, Instagram-filtered fantasy. Here's the part nobody warns you about. Most great companies didn't start as perfect visions. They started as awkward, half-baked, "Is this even a thing?" ideas. Ideas that only became powerful after the real world punched them in the mouth a few times. That messy evolution is where the magic happens. And if you think I'm just being dramatic, look at Netflix. The giant that rewired how we watch everything didn't begin with some Hollywood-worthy master plan. It started with a tiny, questionable experiment, one that most people would have tossed in the trash. But that ugly idea, it became a revolution. To understand this fundamental philosophy, we have to start with the concept every builder fears most: the ugly baby philosophy. Let's talk about something every creator, founder, or wannabe builder needs to hear. Your first idea is an ugly baby. I know, it sounds harsh, but it's true. You adore it because it's yours. Everyone else just sees a weird, squishy little creature you swear will grow into greatness. And here's the twist. Its ugliness is exactly what makes it powerful. An ugly baby can be shaped, tested, challenged, and rebuilt without your ego getting in the way. Unless you cling to it like it's already perfect. To grasp this idea, look at Netflix before it was Netflix. There was no grand strategy to reinvent entertainment. No, we're gonna kill cable and dethrone Hollywood keynote. Mark Randolph simply wondered, could you actually mail a DVD without it snapping in half? That's it. Not exactly Steve Jobs unveiling the iPhone. And the guy didn't sit in a cafe sketching business models. He grabbed a cheap CD from a store, slipped it into a flimsy paper envelope, slapped a stamp on it like some budget magician, and dropped it into a mailbox. No pitch deck, no engineers, no months of planning, just a goofy experiment. One tiny, ridiculous hypothesis tested in the real world. The next day, the envelope showed up intact. One tiny test, one data point. And that was enough to spark what eventually became one of the most influential companies on the planet. But here's the real message. The biggest mistake you can make is hiding your ugly baby in a dark room while you try to polish it into beauty. Ideas don't evolve in isolation. They evolve through friction, feedback, rejection, weird reactions from strangers on the internet. That's where they toughen up. Today, it's easier than ever to run that first scrappy experiment. You don't have to mail DVDs. You can build a landing page in 10 minutes, launch a prototype with no-code tools by dinner, or throw a concept into a subreddit and let strangers roast it. You can get real-world validation faster than any generation before you. But most people freeze. They're terrified of showing something imperfect. They want their idea to be born as a full-grown supermodel. That's not how innovation works. Everything great starts ugly. So the rule is simple. Stop obsessing over perfection. Start obsessing over proof. Run the smallest test you can imagine. Learn from it. Then run another. And another. Because perfection? That's not your friend. Progress is. But what happens when that progress hits a dead end, when the real-world proof tells you your idea is fundamentally wrong? That brings us to the second critical skill. Pivot. Don't just grind. Here's the second big truth nobody wants to hear. Success isn't a reward for who suffers the most. It doesn't go to the person who pulls the most all-nighters, drinks the most Red Bulls, or logs the most miserable 100-hour weeks. Success goes to the person who's willing to pivot when the data smacks them in the face. And look, I get it. We grew up in the era of hustle culture, motivational posters telling us to grind harder and sleep when you're dead. But Netflix shows us why that mindset can tank you fast. Back in 2000, Netflix was not the cool, swaggering streaming giant we know today. They were drowning. They were $50 million in debt. The dot-com bubble had punched them right in the teeth. They tried selling the company to Amazon. Jeff Bezos basically said, "No thanks." Then they went crawling to Blockbuster, asking to be bought for the same amount, $50 million, and Blockbuster literally laughed them out of the meeting. Imagine pitching your entire company and getting roasted like you're on a bad sitcom. Now, the hustle culture playbook would have told them, cut harder, work longer, squeeze every penny, grind till the wheels fall off. But that playbook would have killed the company. Instead, Netflix did something radically unintuitive. They pivoted. They scrapped late fees, the cash cow of every video rental business, and launched a flat-rate subscription model. One monthly price, unlimited rentals, no late fees, no nagging, no shame. Think about how wild that was. Late fees weren't just a part of Blockbuster's business, they were the business. But Netflix bet on what customers actually wanted instead of what the industry had always done. And that pivot didn't just save them, it turned Blockbuster into a museum artifact. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You can work yourself to death digging in the wrong place. It doesn't matter how strong your work ethic is if you're sprinting down the wrong path. Sometimes the bravest, most productive thing you can do is stop, look up, and admit, yeah, this direction sucks. Let's try something else. And this isn't just a Netflix thing. Look around the modern business world. Microsoft used to be the Windows company. That was their whole identity. But when the world shifted toward the cloud, they didn't cling to their comfort zone. They made an aggressive pivot into cloud computing with Azure. It wasn't flashy at first, it wasn't even cool, but it was the right move. And today, Azure is the engine powering their entire empire. Or take Adobe. They pivoted away from boxed software, actual CDs on shelves, to a fully subscription-based ecosystem. People were furious at first, but that pivot locked in their dominance for a decade. Even Spotify pivoted early on from a peer-to-peer model to full streaming when they saw legal trouble coming. These weren't work harder decisions. They were work smarter or die decisions. So here's your takeaway. Effort matters, but direction matters more. Hustle doesn't fix a broken strategy. Grinding doesn't magically make the market love you. What wins, again and again, is agility, flexibility, the guts to pivot based on reality, not ego. Because the goal isn't to dig the deepest hole, it's to dig in the right place. But finding the right place and admitting you were wrong about the old place requires defeating the most powerful internal enemy of all, your ego. Murder your ego. Let's talk about the real villain in this whole journey. And no, it's not your competition, or the market, or some guy on Twitter telling you your idea sucks. The real enemy is way closer. It's your ego. And I don't mean ego in the confidence sense. I mean that stubborn little voice that whispers, "You're the only one who can do this. You have to be the hero. You have to stay in charge." That voice has killed more startups than bad timing, bad teams, and bad luck combined. Mark Randolph, the guy who co-founded Netflix, learned this the hard way. He spent years dragging the company from a half-baked mail order experiment to a real business. And then he fired himself. He looked at the challenges ahead and said, yeah, Reed Hastings is the better CEO for the next chapter. Can you imagine how brutal that is? Stepping aside from the company you built, the company you named, the company you lived and breathed. Not because you failed, but because you cared more about the mission than about being the face of the mission. That's not weakness. That's elite-level leadership. And this act of self-sacrifice wasn't an outlier. History is full of this exact pattern. Take the most iconic comeback story in tech, Steve Jobs. Everyone remembers him returning to Apple and launching the iPod, iPhone, and iPad. But people forget the part where he was booted out of the company he helped create. That humiliation? It forced him to strip his ego, sharpen his instincts, and come back as a completely different leader. Apple's resurrection wasn't built on brilliance alone. It was built on a man who got punched in the ego and used it as fuel. Or look at Google. Larry Page and Sergey Brin were brilliant, but they weren't run a hyper-growth billion-dollar company brilliant. So they brought in Eric Schmidt, an older, more experienced operator, to steer the rocket while they kept their focus on vision and innovation. Their ego had every reason to fight that decision. But their goal was bigger than their pride. Let's be real. Killing your ego isn't glamorous. It's not a hype Instagram quote. It feels like taking a knife to a part of yourself you've been protecting for years. But here's the truth. Every real builder eventually faces. Ego wants you to be the star. Vision wants you to win. You can't serve both. Sometimes the smartest move isn't pushing harder. It's letting someone else push better. Sometimes the upgrade your company needs is you moving out of the way. So ask yourself, if your vision demanded it, could you hand over the microphone? Could you step aside for the sake of something bigger than you? Because every iconic company eventually hits this crossroads, and only the ones willing to murder their ego make it to the next chapter. But once you've killed the ego and found the right direction, how do you sustain that momentum? The answer lies in the perpetual growth engine, the iteration engine. Now we get to the real engine behind Netflix's success, and honestly, the engine behind every modern company that survives long enough to matter. Iteration, not perfection. Most people think persistence means clinging to the same idea forever, like white-knuckling the steering wheel even as the car slides off a cliff. That's not persistence, that's suicidal stubbornness. Real persistence looks a lot more like what Netflix did. Back in the early 2000s, Netflix wasn't a tech giant. They were literally a DVD by mail service. Red envelopes, physical discs. The kind of thing that sounds ancient now, like flip phones or buying music on CDs. But Netflix saw something in the distance. The internet was getting faster. Streaming video wasn't good yet, but it was possible. And instead of doubling down on the business that was printing money, they started a tiny, kind of embarrassing side project, online streaming. And guess what? The early version sucked. The video quality was rough. The content library was tiny. It felt more like an experiment in a garage than the future of entertainment. But Netflix didn't treat it like a failed prototype. They treated it like a starting point. They kept iterating, improving, expanding, even when it meant slowly killing their own DVD business. They knew their biggest competitor wasn't Blockbuster anymore. It was their own unwillingness to change. They were willing to disrupt themselves before someone else did. Compare that with BlackBerry, a company that acted like physical keyboards were sacred. Meanwhile, the rest of the world moved on. Or look at the taxi industry, which spent years fighting Uber in court instead of fixing the things customers hated: confusing pricing, slow response times, and inconsistent service. Those companies tried to protect the old model. Netflix built the next model. And here's the lesson for entrepreneurs. Stop asking, is my idea perfect yet? It's not. It never will be. Instead, ask, what's the smallest experiment I can run next? One test, one feature, one prototype, one conversation with a real user. The goal isn't to build a monument to a single idea, something you defend, worship, and refuse to touch. The goal is to build an engine that keeps generating better versions of your idea over time. Netflix didn't win because they got it right once. They won because they built a system for getting it less wrong every single day. That's your job too. The culture code. So, how do you actually build a company that can survive pivots, kill egos, and iterate like a machine? You don't do it with a playbook full of rules. You do it by building a culture engine that trusts people to make the right calls. Netflix put it bluntly in their culture deck: no rules, just responsibility. Sounds edgy, right? But it's simple. Hire adults, pay them well, then get out of their way. No strict vacation policy, no petty expense policing, no layers of approvals that turn every decision into a meeting. The idea is not chaos. It's selective freedom. Freedom for people who can handle it. Why does this matter? Because the old model, micromanage, track time, lock people to desks, only works when work is repeatable and simple. Today's problems? They're messy. They need judgment, creativity, speed. That means you want people who can own outcomes, not just follow steps. Look at the practical side. When you trust your team, they move faster. They fix problems before they become disasters. They call out bad ideas because they're not afraid of the boss. And you get a culture where experimentation is normal, not something you hide. This doesn't mean zero standards. Netflix's approach includes brutal candor, high expectations, clear feedback, and paying top market rates so you can hire top talent. The trade-off is accountability. If someone can't perform, you don't keep them around for morale, you replace them. Harsh? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely. In the age of AI and remote work, this matters more than ever. Tools can automate chores, but they can't replace judgment. Remote teams need trust baked into the system, not permission slips. AI can suggest options, but humans still decide the plays. Companies that can attract high-skilled people and then trust them will outpace the ones that try to control everything. So, final checklist: start with your ugly baby. Be ready to pivot, kill your ego when needed, iterate constantly, and build a culture that prizes responsibility over rules. Now here's the last line. Stop consuming wisdom. Start testing it. Go run the tiniest experiment you can think of. Prove the idea or kill it. Either way, you win.